Ukrainians were able to make a significant progress in liberating the south of their own country. And in addition to that, the majority of Russian attacks against the east of the country were resisted by Ukrainians as well. So, how does the current map of the war look like? When is it estimated that Ukraine will take back the south? And what Russia is trying to do to keep the war going? And these are the questions that we'll be talking about in today's video. What's up, investors, Susan Wilson and people of Reddit, it's the Russian Dude, and this is your daily update on the Russian-Ukrainian war as of Monday, June 20th. You can see the main events of the day to my right, along with the timestamps. And I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Okay, so crazy good news, people. So the mayor of Melitopol, Ivan Fedorov, acknowledged that the army of Ukraine is only 10-15 kilometers away from the borders of the city. Melitopol is just another major city in the south of Ukraine, and it looks like that Ukraine is going to liberate it in the nearest future. Just for the last week alone, Ukrainian army was able to make significant progress in the south of its own country. And right now, using the map of Ukraine, I'll show you the major changes that happened during this last weekend. Okay, so right here we can see the city of Melitopol, which at this very moment is under control of Russian forces. And besides this city, at this very moment, unfortunately, basically the entire south of Ukraine is under the control of Russian army. And so, like mentioned previously, according to the mayor of Melitopol, Ukrainian forces were able to advance from the Zaporozhye region, and at this very moment they are approximately only 10 kilometers away from this city. In addition to that, Ukrainian army is actively getting closer to the city of Kherson, and it is reported that Ukrainian forces were already able to break through the first line of defense of Russian army. At this very moment it is reported that Russian army is trying to reinforce its second and third lines of defense. And one of the reasons why Ukrainian army is able to advance so much in this region, it is because they successfully destroy military warehouses, such as for example military warehouse of Russia in the city of Novokakhovka, which basically means that Russia does not have much reinforcements and resupplies left. In addition to that, there were several reports recently is that Ukrainian army was able to launch several successful airstrikes against the Snake Island, which is at this very moment is technically used by Russian army as one of their strategic locations. It has been reported that this is the island where potentially Russia was keeping its artillery systems, and these artillery systems were used to launch artillery strikes against the south of Ukraine. And in addition to that, according to some reports, on this island there is a currently headquarters of Russian army, and besides that there are some antennas and other communication systems. In addition to these attacks against the Snake Island, according to the member of Russian parliament Mikhail Sherimat, Ukrainians were also attacking oil drilling stations in Black Sea. And because of this, he says, Russia has now all the authority to launch artillery strikes against the decision-making cities in Ukraine. Which obviously what he means here is to attack some of the cities like Kiev. And now let's talk quickly about the main battle of this war at this very moment, which is the battle for the Severodonetsk. According to several reports, Russian army is almost not advancing inside the city of Severodonetsk. There is even more activity of Russian forces around the city of Izum. And what they're planning to do is to attack the city of Slavyansk, which if you remember from my previous episodes, Russia will try to use the city of Slavyansk to attack the city of Severodonetsk from the west. But at this very moment, Ukrainian forces are trying to distract Russians from the northwest of the city of Izum. And so far, this counteroffensive is relatively successful. That is why Russians are not able yet to advance in these directions. What Russia continues to do at this very moment is to attack the city of Severodonetsk from the north of the city. And one of the main things that they are doing is that they are actively bombing this city as well as the next city of Lysychansk. What is also happening in the area is that it is reported that Ukrainians are sending some of its reinforcements using the road between the cities of Bakhmut and Lysychansk. And what Russia is trying to do at this very moment is to disrupt these reinforcements. And so one of the main directions where Russia sends its forces into this region is from the south of this territory. And it is reported that Ukrainians were able to resist these attacks somewhere approximately near the town of Berestoye. So it is now very well possible that Ukraine will still get access to this road and continue sending reinforcements into Lysychansk. And now, really quick about Kharkov region. Russia has been recently launching launching artillery strikes against the northeast of this city. And in response to that, Ukraine has been also destroying several military objects of Russia in this region. According to Zelensky himself, Russia is now gathering its forces to launch a full-scale attack against Kharkov region. And one of the reasons why would they want to do this is to push the military actions away from the Russian borders. And in addition to that, Zelensky also says that he sees that Russia is also concentrating its forces in the city of Slavyansk, because according to him they will do everything possible to finally capture the city of Severodonetsk. So as you can see, Ukraine is achieving incredible success in the south of its own country and is relatively resisting Russian forces in the east. And yes, all of this what's happening is while Ukraine is still waiting for the majority of weapons from the west. Because as you already know, is whenever Ukraine gets these offensive weapons, this is when even more successful counteroffensive will be launched. And according to some higher government officials of Ukraine, such as for example Alexei Arestovich, Ukraine will start receiving the majority of these weapons somewhere in the middle of this summer. So I'm personally estimating is that Ukraine will be able to successfully liberate the majority of the southern territories somewhere approximately in August, September, maybe October of this year. And by the way, if you like this style of daily news reporting, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, please make sure to check the link in the description if you wish to support Ukraine with us. You will get additional content and all the proceeds will be donated to Ukraine at the end of each month. Thanks so much and let's continue. Welcome to another episode of Ridiculous Russian Propaganda, and today we're going to be talking about this video that I'm thinking most of you have already seen, where President Biden falls from the bike. And I mean, it's okay, it's quite understandable, the guy is already 80 plus years old. And at the same time, I also understand that the political leaders of countries must always maintain their strong presence. But not if you are Russian propaganda. Oh my, this video was just circulating everywhere, in every single Telegram channel, every single news channel, everywhere in Russia. The whole narrative can be generalized as something as following: how this guy can rule the entire United States of America if he cannot even ride a bike. Some people were even suggesting him, okay, let's give him 3 wheels bicycle. And at the same time, I'm like, at least this guy goes outside and rides bicycles and not just sits underground in bunker. And I'm not even going to talk about another president who is actively showing up on the battlefronts almost daily. This is the way presidents should behave. And speaking about this president, who I'm sure every one of you already understands who I'm talking about, it's obviously President Zelensky, Russia started making this vodka. And the vodka is called the Tears of Zelensky. And I mean, it's not water, it's not like soda, it's vodka. Which makes it a perfect drink for some crazy Russian patriots whenever they're discussing world political situation during their dinner. Okay, so according to Russia, the main goal of Russia in this war is the liberation of Ukraine. And apparently recently Europe realized that they can also kinda liberate Russia. And what I'm talking about here is the small Russian region of Kaliningrad, which is literally located in the middle of Europe. So what basically happened is that the country of Lithuania said that they are not going to deliver Russian sanctioned goods by their own railways. And these railways, they are passing the territory of the country of Lithuania. And because Kaliningrad region is literally surrounded by European countries, these sanctioned goods were approximately estimated to be the 50% of imports into this region. One of the first responses from the Russian side was the statement by the press secretary of Russia, Dmitry Peskov. And he obviously said that this action is completely unlawful. So what we potentially might see what's happening in this region is that Europe tries to liberate this Kaliningrad region, which is kind of the same what Russia is trying to force with this narrative, whatever it's doing in the east of Ukraine. With only one big and pretty much major difference is that Europe is not bombing this region. And another response of Russia was from the senator of Russia, Andrei Klimov. He basically said that because of this decision taken by the Lithuanian government, Russia is now free to do anything they want. which then was also confirmed by the representative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia, Maria Zakharova, is that in case this connection between Lithuania and Russia will not be resumed in the nearest future, Russia will protect its own interests. And I guess you already know what it means, is that Russia will try to, liberate Lithuania. Okay, so this is already just getting ridiculous, because in the very nearest future, the high school kids from Russia will start studying the most modern history of Russia. And yes, this is just the segment of history classes, which will be just called exactly like this. And among the major topics of this newest history of Russia was the liberation of Crimea back in 2014. What I'm personally assuming what is going to be taught during these history classes will be the justification of the annexation of Crimea. But of course they will not call it the annexation of Crimea. It will be professionally replaced as the reunion of Crimea with Russia. And in addition to Crimea, high school kids will also be studying the history of Donbas region, which is at this very moment is the most active battle zone in entire Ukraine. Kids will be basically studying the amended Russian side history of these regions. And besides that, they'll be also obviously talking about these referendums, about the independence of these territories from Ukraine. And basically, yes, I'm not sure about every single school system in the entire world, but in Russia these classes are mandatory, which basically means that you cannot just not take them or you cannot fail them, because in case you fail them, you'll have to repeat the entire year. So what it means that these kids will be forced this knowledge. And if you want to graduate from school, you will just have to accept it. In one of the next military support packages from the United States to Ukraine, one of the items that is being sent to Ukraine are Russian helicopters. So yes, you basically got me right. These are the Russian helicopters which Russia sold to the United States during the war in Afghanistan, and now these helicopters are being transported back to Ukraine to fight against Russia. The helicopters we are talking about are Mi-17 and Mi-8, but because Taliban basically seized the power in Afghanistan, these helicopters are no longer needed. And that is why, ironically, America decided to send these particular helicopters to Ukraine. The Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, confirmed that Ukraine needs Western weapons in case they want to liberate the Donbas region. This is basically something what we've been talking about on this channel for the last month or so. And this was also obviously confirmed by many Ukrainian government and military officials, which is that yes, Ukraine needs all these Western weapons in case they want to resist Russians and win in this war. What Jens Stoltenberg is basically saying is that Ukrainians are fighting against constant inflow of Russian forces, which basically means that Ukraine has limited resources both in weapons and in army personnel, but at the same time Russia can always just send more people. And because of this, the time is of the essence for Ukraine to receive these weapons as soon as possible. And at the same time, the General Secretary is also saying that West must always keep sending these weapons no matter the cost. Because in case Ukraine loses in this war, the consequences for the rest of the world, including Western countries, might be more significant rather than just sending weapons and bearing some financial losses. And at the same time, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Dmytro Kuleba, said that no matter whether Ukraine receives these weapons or not, Ukrainians will continue fighting for their own land, friends and relatives. His almost exact quote was that in case Ukrainians will have to fight with just the shovels, they will still do it. But of course it will be much easier in case Ukraine receives all these modern weapons. Thank you so much for your attention, check the link in the description, stay safe and see you tomorrow.